Good morning, everybody. Today I want to continue with lesson 9 that covers using text in Adobe Illustrator. Add text to your illustrations, designs, logos, whatever you want to do. Before I proceed with the lesson from the book, I want to cover one little part that I talked about yesterday, which when I was discussing the various parts of letter forms, starting with a baseline and covering ascenders and descenders. This is the actual illustration that I wanted you to see. Somehow it got converted in I think it was Safari. Anyway, so I think you can see by using, because what I had originally designed, I used Times Roman for the type or the font. And as you can see, it matches much better. You can see that the letter forms, the letters actually rest on the baseline as they're supposed to. And you can see that the X height matches. So the lowercase letters, where they end, okay, is where the X height should be. And you can see that any part of the letter that extends above the waistline becomes what is called the ascender. Anything that is below the baseline is called a descender. Okay, and remember that type is measured from the top of the ascender to the bottom of the descender. So if you specify, I want 72-point type, it's going to be measured from up here, the top of the D, in this particular letter form or type, this particular font, to the bottom of the descender. Now, if you specify, on the other hand, I want a cap height of 72 points, which would be equivalent to 1 inch, then notice that it would be a little bit, would actually be taller than the 72 points that we had specified before, but you'll see that it's measured from the baseline to the top of the capital letter. You can see in this particular design that the ascender extends above the cap. Now, the example that I had for you the other day, so let me bring that down here. It substituted, and I don't know why it did that. I don't know what typeface it put in here by default, but as you can see, the design is totally different. That the descender doesn't extend as far as it does for this is the Times Roman. Notice that the X height or the waistline should be considerably higher for this, that it's above the midpoint, and that the cap height and the height of the ascenders are about the same. So if I were to specify 72 point, it would be still smaller than cap height, but instead what you would get is a type or a size that's a little bit larger than what you saw with Times Roman. Anyway, I wanted to draw that comparison and show you those examples. And then we're going to continue now with the lesson itself. So they have a menu that we're supposed to incorporate type. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And hopefully my computer is working better today. There we go. And it is. It seems to be working pretty nice. I was having problems with Adobe yesterday. So you can see that starting in the upper left-hand corner here, we have two parts of a menu. We have the word fresh, and it is aligned with the glyphs. So that's one of the things that we're going to do. We have the title here, Strawberry Lemonade. That's what we're designing over here. And we have couple of different typefaces and that we're using. We're also specifying blocks of text that span 2 columns. We're also taking a block of text, and rather than represent it or present it in a simple rectangle, we're changing the configuration of it a little bit. So that's what we're doing here, so that it actually slants a little. You'll also notice in the grilled trout For the ingredients of that, we also have a 2-column format. We're also going to work with paragraph styles and character styles to make sure that there is consistency and uniformity between the different menus that we're creating. We're also going to be using in our particular, let me move this up, there we go. In our particular instance, we're going to be using type that follows an effect that allows us to have it arc the type, which is really pretty nice. And one of the last things I do that I don't like doing, but it's not a bad idea if you're going to turn your document over to someone who may not have the typeface that you do, is that we can outline the font. Now, after you do that, it's no longer editable. So what I traditionally do is make a copy of that type that I've created, put it to the side, and then go ahead, and then I can outline the type so that I can give the person a vector graphic rather than editable text. So this is the end, and I will be referring to it from time to time, make sure that I have my settings correctly. I'm going to go back to my working document here. And one of the first things that they want us to do in here, or not first, but it will come very soon in the lesson, is that we're going to have to activate fonts from Adobe's website. If you opened up the end file and you don't have those fonts activated on your computer, it will alert you and it will ask you if you want to activate them. And so since I've already opened the end file, these fonts are already activated, the ones that we're going to use in the lesson. So let me go ahead and take, this is me from my practice here. I'm going to go ahead and remove these because we're going to add it. We'll see how far I get with this today. Okay, but that will be it. You'll get a good sense of how all of the type works in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with a type tool, and I'm just going to go with the default typeface. So if we look at the character under our properties panel, we can see that it's Myriad Pro regular 12 point. So if I click up here, okay, I get what is called Greeking. It says Lorem Ipsum. It's just nonsense words, but they serve as a guide for us to see visually what it's going to look like on our page. So what I want to do now is I'm going to put in here is that the type for that, and it's going to be fresh. So I'm just going to type in fresh. And by default, what it's done when I click here is that we're adding point type rather than a block of type. So you need to be careful when you do that. If you want to make sure that the type is not distorted, because if I click and I drag to the bottom, notice that it elongates it and stretches it and distorts the type. So Command Z to bring that back. If I want to increase the size of it though, you can either specify here in the properties panel, decide, you know what, I want it to be 48 point. So let's go up to here. So we can do it that way. Or you can move over one of the corners, hold down the Shift key, and you can click and drag. And as I stretch it, notice that in the properties panel here, it gives me a new size reading for it. And it also gives me the default leading for it as well. So I'm going to go back to 48 because that's what we're going to be using pretty soon. And I'll just set this aside. That's what we're doing. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Let's go back and move it over here. We'll just set it aside for the time being. Then the next thing that we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create additional text. It's going to be for the other parts of our lesson here. So I'll go ahead and I'll click and I'll drag. So instead of selecting point type, I'm going to select an area for it. So if I just simply click and drag with the type tool, like so. And I go ahead and I type in here. Notice that it's using the last type size that I used from before. So now what I want to do is I'm going to put in here the strawberry, what is it? Strawberry lemonade. And you'll see that it doesn't, it's blocked off, even though I've typed it in there, a bunch of the type is gone. So what I need to do is I need to click and drag. And as I do so, notice that it expands. So I'm clicking on the handle on the bottom. And I'm clicking here. And you can see that it automatically now, by clicking and dragging to create a type box, what it's doing is it's allowing me to resize the box, but it's automatically taking the type and it's moving it down to the next line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and I know in advance that we're going to be changing the size of this. They don't want us to do this just yet, but I'm going to do this anyway. This is going to be 40 point later, a little bit later. Okay, so I'll just change it to 40 now. Why not? Okay, and leave the leading automatic. Later on, we're going to increase the leading. That's the space between the lines to 50 points, or yeah, 50 points. So I'll come back here. So we've got that. So the next that we're going to add is going to be serves 6 to 8 in time 15 minutes. So I'm going to deselect this and I'm going to reset. Come on, there we go. I'm going to reset this to 12 point. So if I click again, instead of 40 points, I'm just going to go back to the default. I'm going to go back to what the book has used. And we're going to change the fonts, by the way, eventually. So let's click here. Okay, so I'll make sure that everything is set. And I'm going to click. Instead of Lorem Ipsum, I want serves. I want all caps. Serves. Well, we can redo that. So I'm going to just say serves. Oops, I have cap lock on, and I didn't want that. Serves. Semicolon 6 to 8. 6 to 8. Oops, 6 to 8. I can't type. I'll go ahead and move this over, because this is another way that you can make sure that the type size and style that you've selected is what you want. So I'm going to click and drag, hold down the Option key or the Alt key on the PC, hold down Shift key to make sure that it's constrained. And now I'll go back to the type tool and I'm going to select the type again. And we'll say that in this particular instance, which is time 15 minutes. So time 15 minutes. Okay. So there we go. By just copying the text that I just created, that little text block, what it ensures is that whatever typeface I have selected will be the same. Whatever size I have selected will also be the same. And I have smart guides on, so it allows me to align everything pretty nicely. The next thing that I want to do now is we're going to go down here. Now I have strawberry lemonade up here. Strawberry lemonade actually belongs down here. Okay. Now they've already provided some text for us that goes in here. So I'm going to switch now to the other part of our menu. And we're going to work with various columns of text. Actually, you know, it doesn't go up there. This goes here. My bad. There's text that we're going to be inserting here as well. So, okay. So I'll move this over here. Forgot. It does go there. And then we're going to do a few more things to that. And what I want to do now is also create a block of text down here. So what I'll do is I'll click the type tool. And now we're going to import text. And you can import text from other Adobe Illustrator documents, from Photoshop, from Word. You can use rich text format, which is what we're going to do here. So what I want to do is I want to click and I want to drag a box that's about so big. Okay, and it brings in all of that reeking. It just fills it up. I don't want anything in there. So now what I want to do is I want to go to File, Place. And let's make sure that I have the correct here we go. Come on. I'm going to use the column text here. So I don't know why it's not allowing me to select. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'll select it and see what it puts in here. Okay. Click OK. And it should go inside there. There we go. So these are the ingredients. Actually, what I want the ingredients is to be over there. So I picked the wrong one. So let me undo that. I'm going to go back again. I'm going to File, Place. And it wasn't the column text, it's just the text. So again, it's going to ask me how I want this formatted. It's reading it. I click inside the box that I created. Come on. Let me undo that. Let's try that again. And let's try that again. Having difficulties here. It's supposed to be so easy, and sometimes just have problems. I don't know why. So let's try that again. Select the text, place it over here, click, and we'll click inside the box that I created. There we go. So it's a much bigger box than I had anticipated, but not a big deal. Let's go back and resize this. So I'm going to bring this down like so. I'm going to go ahead and resize it. So and I'm going to move down to the bottom of this and resize it so that it fits in there. And one of the things that you will notice when I resize this, and this is the critical part, that in the lower right-hand corner of our text box, there's a little red box here. So that box tells us that there is type that's embedded in here that is being hidden. So if I click on it, what it does is it's going to give me the opportunity now to create a second text box, or third if I want, to continue that type and make sure that it is threaded through there. So if I click here, notice that it has the rest of the text. Now I can stretch this out so it fits like so. Okay, and you'll notice that I have directions here. So I want the directions to start up here. So I'll select on this text box and I'll move that up. And notice that when it's threaded, it automatically moves the text over to the right side. So if I edit from the right or the left, they will affect one another because they are connected to one another. You can see how they are connected. You can disconnect them if you wish. We could also have this one threaded to another text box if you want, but it becomes it's a very effective way of working. Okay, so that's immediately allowing us to create a two-column format for our text, but we're able to take each individual text box and then move them to different positions on our design as we as we choose. Now, the first one that we picked, I'll use that one up here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import that text. I'm just going to go to File, Place. And this is the 2 column. And this is a really, so this is what they want here. This is the column text. I'll just click here. Click here. I'm just going to click OK. And notice that I get a little change in the icon. And what I want to do is I want to click so that it fits there. And you'll notice it's 1 column. Well, one of the things that Adobe Illustrator provides is a way for us to turn this into 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, as many as we want. So I make sure that I select the text, make sure that I use the Move tool, and then I go up to Type. And what I want to do is I want area type options. So that's what I've done is I've created this text box or area type. And then over here to the right, you'll notice that under columns, a number of columns, it's set to, by default, 1. As soon as I select 2, look what it did. Okay. It, again, it's like threading the text that we did before, but notice that there is a definite gutter that they have created between them. And you can create your own size gutter if you want. The default size is 1/4 of an inch, but that can be changed. You can insert spacing for offset. You can do a whole variety of things here. Again, we have the span of the columns. We can change that. If you wanted to change this to 3 columns, you could do that as well. Or 4, whatever. You can on the fly. You can always switch and go back. So I'm going to leave it at 2. Okay, and I'm going to change this a little bit so this gets moved up, like so. That's going to come over to CAD. And then we're going to format the text a bit so that we'll begin to get all of this to look a little bit nicer for ourselves. So I should probably move this over a little bit. Should probably move this over a little bit. Now we can go ahead and proceed to start to format our text. Not using the default text, but the the specific fonts that they want us to use in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over here, for example, and I'm going to select all of the type. So I want to begin to activate some of my fonts. And as I said, they're already activated, but what I want to do is I want to come over here and we're going to create paragraph styles and character styles. You'll notice I've already done that. I created bold text and we have heading, but I didn't select a paragraph. I didn't create a paragraph text. So we have our normal or default styles, but I'll go ahead and I'll create a custom one here. So what I want to do is select everything that's in the text. And you can either do it this way or just say select all, and it selects all the text in there. The next step is to decide what font you want, what size you want, what lettering you want. And if I remember correctly, and I may be off on this, but that's okay. What I want to do is I want to click here where it says Myriad Pro. And then we can decide here how we want to, what groups of or categories or classifications of fonts that we want to see. Now, right now for our ad, we're only using sans serif. So if I make sure that that's checked, those will be the only fonts that I see over here. Well, the one that I want to select for this, for the body copy, is Montserrat, I believe. So let's scroll down to that. It's up here. There we go. Montserrat. So now Montserrat's selected, and it's selected at 12 point. This is a good place to watch and to be careful, because you'll notice in the lower right-hand corner when you do this, since the default was 12 point, that it's a little bit too large for this area. So what I probably need to do is I need to change this to 10 point. Okay. And I'm going to increase the leading a little bit. Maybe I can leave it to 12. I'll leave it to 12 point. So that's good. 10 on 12. Okay. So what I still need to do is adjust the sizes a little bit. What I also want to do is under paragraphs. So let's not bring up paragraph styles, but I want to bring up the paragraphs themselves. So I'm going to go to Window, since I don't see it over there. And under Type, I want to bring up, we can bring up characters, which is a duplicate of what we see in the Properties panel, but I want to bring up the paragraph here. So at the end of every paragraph, I want to, and that's what this is over here, I want to add 6 points. Okay, just to add a little bit of space between that. Notice that it added considerably. And you can see that it's, you know, breaking up some of the space again, and it's causing me to change the size of my text boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and resize that. So let's go back again. I can select these individually or as a group. So I'm going to select this one. I think we're in good shape. There we go. So that works pretty nicely. But what I want to do with all of this is I want to create a paragraph style for myself so that when I apply that to any other paragraphs or area text or blocks of text in my, my document, they will have the same properties. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to select them all. Okay, select all. And what I should see under paragraph, you can see that I see over here that I added that 6 points of space between each of the paragraphs. What I also did is I made sure that the type was Montserrat light or Montserrat, there we go, and light, 10 point, 12 point leading. Seems to be working well for me. There's a little bit off here. So yeah, I do need to change one of these just a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the plus sign here for the little paragraph styles. So I'm going to go ahead and add the plus sign, and it adds a new style. So we'll call this our paragraph. Not very creative at the moment, and the book wants something else. But you would name it something a little bit more clever for yours. So there we go. So now I need to come back with let's go back here. And I got to move this down a little bit so that we have the salt and pepper added. There we go. So directions is up here. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to apply those styles to these paragraphs over here. So what I can do is I can select this. And again, I can come up here and I can select our paragraphs. Notice how it's changed the size of it. It's changed the, everything that we applied to our paragraphs over here. Likewise, we want to do that over here. So I'm going to go ahead and select that block, and it's done the same. So we have uniformity, we have consistency with the text that we've applied and all of our menus here. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to apply, change color. We want to apply different headings for this so that it looks a little bit different. And I've already gone ahead and done that. So we have character styles. We have bold text, which we would use for this. We also, under paragraph styles, I have a heading. So what I want to do is I want to select, under where it says directions, highlight that and select the heading for that. And if I look under the character properties for that, it's the same procedure as what I did for Hold on here. There we go. The same procedure as what we did for the paragraphs, but you'll notice that it's 12 point. In this particular instance, it's Oswald Light instead of the Monstrot, but I can select any individual word or group of letters, and I can apply that heading style to it. And again, maintain uniformity and consistency. So I've got that one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select over here, ingredients. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select the heading. So that gives us that. And I'm going to come over here for directions. And I'm going to apply that as well. Make sure that I don't select all the type, but I just select. I didn't want to do that. Got to be careful when you click on stuff. Sometimes, see how I created a group of text and I didn't mean to. It gets really kind of touchy sometimes. So I'll come back here. I like just the word, apply the heading for our text over here. And then what I want to do is I did the same thing for character styles. And that what we wanted over here is where it says serves. I'm going to go ahead and apply bold to that. And where we have time, apply bold to that. And not only did I apply a different font or a different size or a different style, but I also assigned a different color. So another thing that we can do, so let's come over here and I'm going to go ahead and take the strawberry lemonade that I created here. And they do want us to make it 40 point. They want the leading to be 50. So I don't see, let's come back in here and I'll do it by hand, not 52, but 50 points. So they're opening it up a considerable amount. Whoops, no, I don't want 5, I want 50. There we go, considerable overlap. There we go. So I can go ahead and with that selected, I want to change the color. Okay, so I'm going to change it to this deep red. Okay, the one that I used for here. And serves and time. Yeah, if I need to, I can move this over a little bit. And with smart guides, I can tell that it's aligned. The other thing that they want us to do is notice how the type is set to the top of the box. This I've never used, but what we can do here for area type, you can specify whether you want it to align to the top, whether you want it aligned to the center, which is what I've done here, or if I click on this little button over here in the properties panel to the right, it aligns to the bottom. So I think they wanted it aligned to the top, but it really doesn't matter because you're going to move it anyway to get it to fit in the appropriate location you want. One of the next things that we need to do is we're going to work with glyphs, and we're going to work with the word fresh here. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to align this the way it was originally. There we go. And I'm going to change this to what I have over here. I'm going to go ahead and select. Actually, what I'm going to try, let's try this. I'm going to go ahead and use the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to click what I have here. And then I can hold down the Option or Alt key, and click on there, and notice that it applied the same settings as what I used here, but it went. So I have, the same type size, same color. What you want to do with the eyedropper tool that can be very useful from time to time is that you can specify, that you want the entire appearance, that you want, that's what it picks up, or do you want only color, only transparency, or you want all of the above? Another thing that I can do which is kind of nice, is that I'm going to go ahead and select the text, and I want all caps. And I showed you this yesterday, but with the type selected, if I click this little more options button here, what I can do is I can specify here that I want all caps. So now it's all caps. I want to align this text to this glyph, and I also want to make a little arrowhead in front of it that also aligns to the text. So to do that, this is what we need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. What I need to do first is under View, make sure that you say Snap to Glyph. If that's not already selected. Okay. Then what I can do is I can take this glyph and I can begin to move it up and down and about, and notice that as I move it, it works like the smart guides, but a little green line appears when I align it, the glyph with the top of the text. Now I can come down here and I can select this, and I'm going to distort it so that it becomes almost like a condensed typeface. And notice that it locks it in place down below. So that works out pretty well for us. Now what I want to do is I need to, by hand, make a little arrowhead. And again, I want it to align with this. So I'm going to move this up so that it aligns. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select like so. And I'm going to click on here. I'm going to right click. What I want to do is say Snap to Glyph. And notice that the H now is the letter that we were going to snap our new arrowhead to. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the type tool, or type tool, the pen tool. And as I move the pen over, notice that it's aligning to the top of the H. So now what I can do is I can click, I can move the mouse, and if I want it to be at a perfect 45-degree angle, I hold down the Shift key. Right. So that's where it's going to click. And then I can go ahead and move down here. And when it's aligned to the bottom, I'll see a little green line. I click again. Now I can click to the top to close the path. And now I have an arrowhead that is perfectly aligned with my H. Okay. So now I can come back here and I can go ahead and release Snap to Glyph if I so choose. And now if you need to select this and you need to move it, nudge it over to the left or to the right a little bit, if you want a little bit more space between the vertical of the arrowhead and the right vertical stroke of the H, you can do that. Likewise, I can select the tail of the arrowhead and I can move that over a bit. And now what we can do is we can select the whole thing by clicking and dragging diagonally, and I can group them together. So now if I want, I can go ahead and I can move over the corner, and I can go ahead and make kind of easy, make it kind of easy for us to make sure that everything is uniform and aligned and consistent. Okie doke. So I think I have everything here. I think not quite. I think this is supposed to be. I'm going to go ahead and see that's still Myriad Pro. So you need to be careful. So what I need to do is I need to go back and I'm going to select. I think we want. Yeah. I don't remember whether we want Oswald or Montserrat. Maybe it's Oswald. It's not important. Just follow the text. I'm just going to use Oswald because I believe when I click in here, that is Oswald. Yeah, that's Oswald regular. That was the one that I selected. So likewise here, I'm going to go ahead and select it. And I'm going to make sure that I have Oswald selected as well. There we go. Yep. That shouldn't be. That's 12 point. Yeah. Okay. So a couple of other things that we can do with type that are very nice. So we have one of our menus completed. Oh, one more thing that I want to do in here. Let's go ahead. This is an easy thing, but really quite nice. Let me go ahead and move my character styles and paragraph styles over. You'll notice that the type, our area type or a block of text overlaps our illustration, and I don't want that. So what I can do is I can take the direct selection tool. I can select the bottom left-hand corner of our area text or block of text. Now I can click and I drag with that one point selected. Hold down the shift key to make sure that it's a horizontal alignment and movement, and move it over, and notice that it fits in there really nicely. So we don't have to use, that's what I was talking about before, a rectangular area text or block of text. So that works really nice. If I wanted to add anchor points in here and reconfigure this even more, I could do so. So that it follows any configuration that you want. So for example, if I come back under the pen tool and I selected add anchor point, I could come over here and I could add an anchor point here. Now I could come back in here with the direct selection tool, select this and move this way over here like so. And notice how it's fitting nicely within the configuration of the shape that I made. But also notice that by doing so, that I've eliminated the visibility of some of the text. So I would either have to change the size or whatever of my area text in order for that to fit. So be careful when you do that. So let's go back over here and let's do a few other things. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and I'm going to take, I don't want to zoom out that much. I want to take serves 8 and time 15 minutes. I'm going to select both of these just by clicking and dragging. And I'm going to make a copy of them and I'm going to bring them over here. Well, that's what I wanted to do. Select them both. There we go. Click and drag, hold down the Option or Alt key, make a copy. Now, if you need to change the properties of that, you can. So I'll center this here. I'll deselect and I'll select this group and I'll move it over, holding down the Shift key to make sure that it is aligned with the other one that serves 6 to 8. Okey-doke. Where am I at with time? I may have to finish this up another day, but we'll see. What I want to do next, I'll do this, try to do this quickly. What we can do is I want to make sure, because I need to move this little logo down a little bit, like so. Okay. And notice that it just rests on top of the text. That's not what I want. I want the text to wrap around the logo. So what I need to do is that by selecting the logo, I can come up to Object menu, and under Text Wrap, it should do that. So let's go ahead here. Let's go ahead and release. See what we do again. So select it again. let's go to Object, Text Wrap, and let's go ahead and say Make. And let's see what we have. Text Wrap. Okay. So it's not wrapping around my text. I don't know why. Let me go ahead and check the settings. So if I go back to Object and I go to Text Wrap, I'm going to look at Text Wrap options to see what it has. And it only has 6 points. So let's go ahead and bump that up a little bit and see if that's the problem. Make it 12 point. Oh my. So it's not wrapping around here like it's supposed to. So why is that? Well, let me move on to the next point. What we want to do is we want to apply some text that follows the path around here. So what I can do is I can take with a text tool and I'm going to switch and I'm going to go to type on a path. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click right here. And you'll notice that I get the little cursor and I can add text to that. So it's one of the last things that we're going to do. I'm going to make sure that I know which one we have here. It's good for you. That's what we want. Okay. Now, if that isn't where you want the position of the text to be on around the outside of the circle, then what you can do is if you select the direct selection tool, there's a little handle right here, and that allows us to click and drag and move it about. Okay. So that works pretty nicely. Why this isn't working, I don't know. It really is bugging me. Let's do one more thing then. Let's go ahead and select a rainbow trout up here. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to use the same size text that we used for strawberry. Lemonade, make sure that that's selected so I can copy it easily. Well, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and using the type tool, I'll just type in here, rainbow trout. Okay. And we are using Oswald Light 40 point. We may have to increase the size of that. Again, I don't remember what the book specified. So I'm going to go up to maybe 48. Let's make sure that that's highlighted. And it could be even larger. I'm not sure. It's not really critical for us. And we can apply in a variety of different ways that I've already shown you. But I'm going to go ahead and apply the dark red to it. And then later we're going to use a different color, but I'm just going to start with the red in there. Now we want it to arc. So how do we get it to arc? What we want to do is we can go under Effect here. Come on. And what I want to do is I'm going to use Warp. And there's a whole bunch of them here. So I want this to arc lower. Okay. Notice what it's doing. Actually, I want it to go in the other direction. So if I move it like so, notice how it's arcing upward now. We just want a slight arc. And if we need to increase the size of the type, again, what we can do is we click OK. If you want to try some of the, also, if you want to try some of the other warp options, you can. Like, arc. And again, you can go in different directions with that. There's a whole bunch of them. You can use fish, wave, so that it's kind of, how much bend you want in here, how much horizontal bend, vertical bend. Why aren't you bending? Okay, I'm going to cancel that and go back to one that we're supposed to use. So we want arc lower. And I'm going to size that back like so. Not that much, just a little bit. Then I'm going to enlarge it a little bit. And I'm just going to use kind of click OK. And I'll go ahead and move over the corner and hold down the Shift key. Make sure that it resizes this proportionately. So the warp tools are really kind of nice. And I encourage you to try those out, maybe with your skateboard deck, which is a reminder that that's due. Let's go back again. Let's select this. Let's see why this isn't working. And that will be it for me today. I know that there's a bit more to do in this lesson. We want the word grilled up here, and there's a couple of other things that the book does a little bit differently than I do. But that's okay. I'm going to go back to object. And I'm going to go back to the text warp. And I'm going to release again. So yeah, it's supposed to be working with this, and I don't know why it isn't. So let's select this again. Try it one more time, and then maybe on Monday, I'll give it a shot. So let's go back again. Text warp, text wrap, rather, make. No, it's not working. I don't know why. It's worked in every instance before. And if I look at the end, you can see that when I select this, there we go, and I go to object and I select text wrap, you can see that it's released. Or let's look at text wrap options and see what is specified. See, it starts with 6 point. Let's switch to 12. Click OK. You can see how it pushes the text away from our logo just a little bit. And the other thing that they've done here too, of course, they added the word grill, but the one thing that I mentioned before is that they've outlined the text. So this is no longer editable text. So to do that, if I go back to my working file here, I'm not going to add the word grilled, but I will take the text that I have warped and change the color. And I can go back to type. And what it will allow me to do is to say create outlines. But again, I caution you before you do that, that if it's taken you a while to figure out what typeface that you wanted to use, or what specific font you wanted to use, what color you wanted to use, then it might take a while to get you back, and it will no longer be editable. So if you've made a typographic error, that could be a problem as well. So I'm going to take this and hold down the Option or Alt key and just drag it to the side to make a copy of it. Now I can click on this one here that's in my ad, and I'm going to go to type, and I'm going to go to where am I going to go here? I'm going to go to create outlines. And now you can see this is no longer editable text. That's what they've done here. Why that's doing that, I don't know. So anyway, that's it for me today. I hope this has been helpful. Oh, Marco, you're here. I didn't see you come. Is there anything that you would like to add? Let me go ahead and pause the recording. But otherwise, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. And I'm going to pause the recording, and I may come back if there's something specific that Marco has something to ask that would be helpful for everybody. Okie doke. So I had a question from Marco that wanted to know why some of his text was highlighted in pink. And that means that the text has not been completed in its activation. So to do that, to activate the text, what you want to do when you're all done, even though you may, if you open the finished file and select it, activate, it should have activated it. But if it didn't complete the activation, then what you want to do is, for example, I have strawberry lemonade highlighted here, and it's back to the default font of Myriad Pro regular. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to make sure under filters that I only have sans serif highlighted. And then what I want to do is I'm going to scroll down to Montserrat. And you're going to do this for Oswald as well. So here's Montserrat, and you'll notice on mine that there's a little checkbox next to the cloud, which means that it's been activated. On yours, if you're seeing pink, there probably isn't a checkbox. So what you want to do is click on the little cloud and a little checkbox should appear. Okay. And I guess the last thing that they want us to do, I forgot to do that. I'm going to switch to medium. It needs to be a little bit bolder. That's okay. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording again and say goodbye and see if Marco's in good shape. And then hopefully all of you are in good shape. Have a good weekend. Make sure that you complete your state board deck assignment. Turn it in and we'll get it graded. For those of you who haven't turned anything in this weekend, you will be receiving a warning from me that make sure that you get caught up in time, because we only have 2 more weeks left. And if you don't, then if you want me to drop you, I can, but there is a limited time for me to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording and say goodbye.